Picture this. You've worked your entire life to reach the pinnacle of the legal profession. You've shattered glass ceilings and earned respect through decades of dedication to justice. You're a sitting judge who holds the power to determine the fate of others. But on this Tuesday morning, as you approach the courthouse where you've presided for 15 years, two police officers look at you and see only one thing: your skin color. What happened next would expose the ugly truth about racism in our justice system, and how one woman's response would change everything. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Judge Victoria Matthews had dedicated her life to justice. At 54, she was one of only a handful of black female judges in the entire state. Born in rural Alabama, Victoria grew up hearing her grandmother's stories about segregation, about separate water fountains in the back of the bus. Those stories fueled her determination to become a judge who would ensure justice truly was blind. Victoria's journey wasn't easy. First in her family to attend college, working 3 jobs through law school while maintaining perfect grades. After years as a prosecutor earning respect from colleagues and defense attorneys alike, she was appointed to the bench in 2009. For 15 years, Judge Matthews presided with dignity and wisdom, known for fair treatment regardless of background and mentoring young attorneys of color. But on this Tuesday morning in March 2024, all of Victoria's accomplishments would be reduced to a single assumption based on her skin color. Victoria arrived at the courthouse at 7:30, her usual time. She had a challenging docket, including a high-profile murder case. As she approached the main entrance of Jefferson County Courthouse, she noticed 2 uniformed officers stationed there. Officer Michael Davidson, 32 years old and new to courthouse security, stood next to veteran officer James Wilson. Wilson recognized Judge Matthews immediately, but something held him back from speaking up. Maybe it was deference to his partner, or the uncomfortable reality of how these situations typically played out. Judge Matthews approached with her briefcase and judicial robes draped over her arm. She wore a professional Navy suit and carried herself with quiet confidence from years of commanding a courtroom. As she reached for the door handle, Officer Davidson stepped forward and blocked her path. "Excuse me, ma'am," Davidson said condescendingly. "This entrance is for court personnel only. The public entrance is around the side." Victoria paused, stunned. In 15 years, she had never been questioned. She looked at Davidson with surprise and growing realization. "I am Judge Victoria Matthews," she said calmly. "I preside over courtroom 4A. This is the entrance I use every day." Officer Davidson looked her up and down skeptically. "Right," he smirked. "And I'm the Chief Justice. Look, lady, I don't know what scam you're running, but you need to use the public entrance like everyone else." The words hit Victoria like a physical blow. Here she was, a sitting judge, being treated like a criminal. She felt the familiar sting of racial profiling, the same feeling from law school when professors mistook her for a janitor, or when opposing counsel directed arguments to her white male clerk instead of her. Officer Wilson shifted uncomfortably. He knew exactly who Judge Matthews was, had seen her handle cases with grace and authority, but something prevented him from speaking up. "Officer," Victoria said steadily, despite her humiliation, "I understand you may not recognize me, but I am Judge Victoria Matthews. I've been presiding here for 15 years. I have a full docket starting at 9 and need to access my chambers." Davidson stepped closer, his voice aggressive. "Ma'am, I don't care what you call yourself. You don't look like any judge I've ever seen. Judges don't look like you. Move along to the public entrance before I call backup and have you removed." Those words, "judges don't look like you," hung in the air like poison. Victoria felt 15 years of accomplishments crumble under this officer's prejudice. She thought about her grandmother's stories, how little had actually changed. But Victoria Matthews hadn't become a judge by backing down. What happened next would be shared millions of times on social media and lead to significant changes in courthouse protocols nationwide. Instead of walking away in humiliation, Victoria calmly reached into her briefcase and retrieved her smartphone. Without breaking eye contact with Davidson, she began recording. "This is Judge Victoria Matthews," she said clearly. "It's 7:45 a.m., March 12th, 2024. I'm outside Jefferson County Courthouse, where I've served 15 years, being prevented from entering by officers Davidson and Wilson, who refuse to acknowledge my position." Davidson lunged toward the phone. "You can't record me without permission." Victoria stepped back while continuing to record. "Actually, Officer Davidson, I can. This is public space, and as a sitting judge, I have the right and responsibility to document this. As someone who's sworn to uphold the Constitution, I'm well versed in First Amendment protections allowing me to record public officials." A crowd began gathering. Attorney Sarah Chen, who had argued before Judge Matthews for years, heard the commotion. Court reporter David Rodriguez stopped when he saw what was unfolding. Dr. Patricia Washington, a forensic psychologist who regularly testified in Matthews' courtroom, pulled out her phone and began recording from another angle. "Judge Matthews," Chen called out in disbelief. "What's happening?" Wilson finally found courage. "Davidson," he said quietly, "that really is Judge Matthews. I see her every day." But Davidson was too invested, too committed to his assumption. "I don't care who she claims to be. She doesn't have proper identification and she's not getting in through the staff entrance." Judge Matthews raised her eyebrows, a look attorneys recognized as warning someone was about to be educated. "Proper identification?" She reached into her briefcase, producing judicial credentials, courthouse ID badge, state bar card, and judicial commission signed by the governor. Morning sun glinted off official seals as she held them up. The crowd murmured in recognition and outrage. Attorney Rodriguez stepped forward. "Officer Davidson, that is definitely Judge Victoria Matthews. She's presided over the most important cases in this county. I've argued before her bench probably 100 times. Dr. Washington joined in. Judge Matthews implemented the courthouse's mental health court program. She's overseen treatment of hundreds of defendants. Her sentencing approaches are studied by 3 other states. More people gathered, creating a scene captured on multiple phones that would soon go viral worldwide. Court clerks, attorneys, bailiffs, and public members recognized what was happening. Davidson's face reddened as his mistake became undeniable. "Now," Judge Matthews said with judicial authority, "I'm walking through this entrance I've used 15 years and proceeding to my chambers. Officer Wilson, ensure this doesn't happen again." Wilson nodded and stepped aside, but Davidson remained defiant. "This isn't over," he muttered loud enough for her phone microphone. Judge Matthews stopped and faced him directly. "Officer Davidson, you're absolutely correct. This isn't over. But not how you think." What Judge Matthews did next shocked everyone, not because it was vindictive, but because of extraordinary grace in her most humiliating professional moment. Instead of simply entering and letting it drop, she made a decision transforming discrimination into a powerful lesson. She looked at the assembled crowd, now including news reporters alerted by social media, and spoke with courtroom authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you witnessed today reminds us why we must continue fighting for equality in our justice system. Officer Davidson made assumptions about me based solely on my skin color." She paused, letting words sink in while cameras recorded. "This isn't just about me. This represents experiences of countless Black professionals judged not by character or qualifications, but by stereotypes that should have been left behind generations ago. I'll file a formal complaint, not for revenge, but ensuring no other professional endures what I have today. More importantly, I'll work with courthouse administration implementing comprehensive bias training for all security personnel." Judge Matthews turned to Davidson, now looking decidedly uncomfortable. "Officer Davidson, instead of pursuing disciplinary action, which would be justified, I invite you to spend a day in my courtroom. I want you to observe cases I handle, decisions I make, responsibility I carry. See firsthand that justice is blind, even when administrators come in different colors, than you expect. The offer was so unexpected, so gracious facing blatant discrimination, that the crowd murmured with appreciation. Officer Wilson stepped forward with embarrassment. "Judge Matthews, I owe you profound apology. I recognized you immediately and should have corrected my partner. No excuse for my silence." Judge Matthews nodded with maintained dignity. "Officer Wilson, I appreciate your honesty. It takes courage. But remember this moment. Sometimes standing up for right requires speaking up even when uncomfortable, even challenging colleagues." As Judge Matthews finally entered, the crowd parted respectfully, many applauding her grace facing obvious discrimination. Once in chambers, she made calls setting changes extending far beyond Jefferson County Courthouse. First to Chief Judge Patricia Armstrong, who pledged full support for comprehensive reforms. Then to Dr. Michael Harrison, Director of National Association of Black Judges, impressed by her constructive response. Third, to Professor Angela Davis at local law school, offering to coordinate documentation studies. Most importantly, to retired mentor Judge Robert Thompson, one of the first black federal judges in the region. "Victoria," Thompson said after hearing events, "what you did reminded me why I fought to open doors for people like you. You stood up for every black professional judged by appearance rather than qualifications. You turned ignorance into education opportunity." By time Judge Matthews took the bench, word had spread throughout legal community and beyond. Her courtroom was packed with supporters. As she called court to session, looking at faces, she felt profound responsibility about representation. Breaking barriers, showing dignity could triumph over prejudice. The first case was young black man Marcus Johnson, charged with drug possession. Seeing something in his eyes reminiscent of her own struggles, she said, "Mr. Johnson, before we proceed, understand something. The law sees no color. Justice recognizes no race. In this courtroom, you'll be judged solely on facts and character content. That's my promise to every defendant regardless of background." Johnson later said her words changed his life, accepting treatment program instead of incarceration, completing it successfully, becoming a social worker helping other young people. Over following weeks, Judge Matthews's response became a model for handling discrimination with class and purpose. Officer Davidson spent a day in her courtroom, profoundly changing his perspective. The mandatory bias training was adopted by courthouses in 12 states. 6 months later, when young Latina attorney Maria Gonzalez was questioned by California courthouse security because she didn't look like a lawyer, she remembered Matthew's story, documented the incident, and used it as motivation, becoming one of the West Coast's most successful immigration lawyers. The viral video garnered 50 million views, sparking conversations in law schools and bar associations about ongoing challenges faced by black legal professionals. Judge Matthews received speaking invitations nationwide, her message always the same. When facing discrimination, we can choose anger and resentment, or use experiences as opportunities to educate and create positive change. 2 years later, Officer Davidson approached her after a police academy speaking engagement. "Judge Matthews, I need to thank you for how you handled that situation. You could have destroyed my career, but instead gave me opportunity to learn and grow. That day changed my entire perspective on race and justice." Davidson had become a diversity training advocate, promoted to supervisory position training new officers about cultural sensitivity. Judge Matthews established mentorship programs for young black attorneys, worked with National Bar Association documenting discrimination incidents, and wrote best-selling autobiography, Justice Wears Many Faces. She spoke at international conferences telling global audiences, "Discrimination isn't unique to any country, but how we respond determines whether we perpetuate hatred or create progress pathways." Today, Judge Victoria Matthews continues serving with the same dedication while becoming a national voice for judicial diversity. The courthouse erected a plaque celebrating her gracious response and resulting positive changes. As she tells mentored students, "When someone tries to diminish you because of who you are, don't shrink to fit their expectations. Stand tall and show them exactly who you can become." The most shocking thing wasn't that she faced discrimination or documented it, but her extraordinary grace, commitment to turning pain into teaching moments, and unwavering belief that even facing ignorance, we can choose dignity and work toward justice. That's the lesson that continues inspiring people worldwide about true leadership facing adversity.